Toilet paper money isn't real success. My dad scoffed at his birthday dinner while wearing the Rolex I gave him. Then you'll never see another dime, I snapped. That night, I cut off every payment. I'm Mark, and I run the toilet paper world. Yes. You heard correctly. I don't sell fancy cars. I don't run a tech startup, and I don't build building. I make money from making toilet paper. My plant creates massive amounts of rolls each month, from the rough, scratchy ones to the super soft triple-layered ones with a soft scent. While most people were broke during the pandemic, my income kept growing. But to my parents, that meant absolutely nothing. All those college years for this, my dad would say with a sarcastic grin whenever someone asked about my job. My son's a big businessman. Every day, thousands of people think of him while on the toilet, my mom would joke while laughing. My older brother, Austin, who works at a bank and barely earns enough to live, would always add something to. Face it, Mark. You're rich because of people using the bathroom, he'd say. They all found it hilarious. But when they were low on cash, suddenly the joke stopped. When my parents couldn't pay the mortgage, I stepped in and paid. When my mom wanted to upgrade the house, I handled the costs. When Austin was broke, I bailed him out. I never told them no. Yet every time they spoke about my career, they made it sound small, like my success was worthless just because of what I sold. I still remember giving my dad a Rolex, the watch he always dreamed about. Gold, classy, the kind that screams success. What's this? He asked, clearly shocked as I opened the box. It's a gift, I told him. Mark, this must have cost a lot. Where'd you get the money? From the business, Dad. Oh, he said with a smirk. Toilet paper, of course. I breathed in slowly. If you don't want it, I can return it. He looked at the watch for a moment, then put it on. Well, you already bought it, he replied. Just like always, they took my money, but never gave me respect. 1 year later, we were eating at Grand Steakhouse for his 60th birthday. I had paid for everything, the fancy location, the gourmet meal, the rose lemonade, even the live band. Everything was top-notch. My parents were surrounded by people, laughing, drinking, celebrating. Then my dad raised his glass for a speech. I smiled expecting a thank you. But instead, he said, let's toast to Mark who thinks giving us cash will make us admire him more. Everyone laughed. My stomach dropped. Sorry. I asked thinking I misheard. My dad sipped his lemonade and tapped my shoulder. Don't be mad, son. Just a little humor. Austin laughed. Lighten up, man. My mom nodded. You know your father. Always joking. I looked at all of them. They were laughing like everything was fine, like what he said didn't matter. I had paid for everything, their home, their luxuries, their dinners, and I was still nothing but a punchline. I quietly placed my glass on the table and stood. If my money means nothing to you, then maybe you don't need it anymore. The room went quiet. What's that supposed to mean? My mom asked, faking a smile. I grabbed my coat and stared at my father. It means you'll no longer get a single dollar from me. From now on, you cover your own expenses. Austin chuckled. Stop overreacting. This isn't drama, I replied. This is the truth. If my money doesn't bring respect, it won't bring you comfort either. My dad slammed his glass on the table. You're just going to turn your back on us over a joke? No, Dad. You turned your back on me the day you decided my hard work didn't matter, and then I walked out. I stepped out of the diner, climbed into my vehicle, and sat quietly. I assumed I'd feel rage, grief, or regret, but instead, I felt calm. For the first time in forever, I didn't have to rescue anyone. I didn't need to stress about covering expenses that weren't mine, repairing family chaos, or hearing them mock me while grabbing my money without hesitation. That evening, I slept more peacefully than ever before. The first few days following my choice were silent. No one reached out. No one messaged. It almost felt like my relatives hadn't even noticed a change, but soon the trouble began. The first text appeared 7 days later. It came from my mom, Frances. Frances, son, did you forget to send the money this month? I ignored it. A few hours later, another message followed. Frances, Mark, dear, things are a little tight financially this month. Could you send something soon? It would really help us out. I gave a sarcastic grin, low on money, of course. They were used to me fixing everything. 2 more days passed. My mom didn't follow up again. But then my brother, Austin, appeared. Austin, Mom's concerned. She says you aren't replying. What's your problem? I stayed quiet. Austin, stop acting like you're upset. This isn't that serious. That's when I couldn't stay silent anymore. I'm not upset. I've just made a choice. I'm no longer going to fund you. Austin, wait. Is this some sort of joke? Do I look like I'm joking to you? There was a long silence. Then he finally responded. Austin, have you lost your mind? You're seriously going to let our parents suffer just because of some dumb speech? No. I'm just letting them handle their responsibilities like grown people should. Austin didn't reply again that evening. 2 weeks later, my parents finally felt what my absence really meant. My mom's car bills fell behind. The gas wasn't paid. The bank contacted them about their home loan. Then my mom did what she always did. She tried to guilt-trip me. She called me while I was at my workplace. Francis, Mark, honey, please. We need to chat. I sighed. What now, Mom? Francis, I don't know what's going on with you, but it's been long enough. I miss you, sweetheart. Can you come to dinner this Saturday? No, Mom. I'm not coming. Francis, please, son. Her voice turned soft, almost begging. Let's just move past what happened. Okay. Come home. Let's eat together like before. I knew what she was up to. She was trying to make me feel guilty to soften me up. This isn't about that dinner, Mom. This is about how you've used me for years, and I won't allow it anymore. There was silence, then her voice changed. Francis, Mark, how could you say that? We're your family. Yeah. But to you, I'm just a walking bank. And guess what? Banks run out of cash too. I ended the call. I knew this was just the start. I knew they wouldn't stop. People who are used to being given everything without effort never leave quietly. And sure enough, 2 days after my dad's attempt to call, the next stage kicked off, the attack from all directions. First came my mom again. Francis, son, I don't know what's happening with you, but you're making a serious mistake. Francis, you can't just turn your back on your family. Francis, we brought you up with care. Are you really abandoning us now? Francis, your dad won't say it, but he's hurting badly. Francis, I can't believe you stopped paying the bills without even telling us. How do you expect us to survive? Francis, do you want us to end up homeless? Francis, Mark, dear, does it not hurt to know we're sitting here in darkness because the electricity was turned off? I ignored every single text. I wasn't going to fall for their emotional tricks again. But then they started messaging my friends. Friend, hey, Mark. Your mom reached out to me. She's super worried. She said you won't reply and that your family is struggling. Struggling? That's funny. They never had any trouble while burning through my money. Friend, I don't want to get in the middle, but maybe help them out a bit. I mean, they're still your parent. I ended the call. I wasn't going to hear even one more second of that nonsense. Then they did the thing I hated more than anything. They brought relatives into it to turn the pressure up on me. Aunt Angela, Mark, what's happening? Your folks are in a terrible spot. Aunt Angela, think about all they sacrificed for you. Aunt Angela, they're not young anymore. Don't stay bitter. Aunt Angela, your mom told me they can't even get online now. How are they supposed to find any work if they can't even send a Zoom call? Aunt Angela, you expect your dad at his age to look for work like some poor men on the street. That's really what you want? I blocked her. I knew she wasn't doing this out of care. She lived for the drama, but that wasn't the worst part yet. One day while driving home from my job, I noticed a strange number pop up on my phone. Normally, I'd ignore it, but this time, something made me answer. Hello. It was Austin, and he sounded furious. Austin, when did you turn into such a greedy cold jerk? I gave a sarcastic grin. Me, oh, so now I'm the selfish one. Austin, what else should I call you? Mom and Dad are falling apart, and it's all because you decided to act like a child. Me, it's not a meltdown. It's called setting a limit. Austin. A limit. You're incredibly selfish. Me. Oh, because I quit being their walking wallet. Because I stopped covering their bills with no warning. Austin, you didn't even give them time to adjust. You just pulled the plug. I laughed in disbelief. Me, adjust to what, Austin? They're grown-ups. Why would I need to explain that it's time they take care of their own expenses, Austin? Because they never had to do that before. You spoiled them and then disappeared. I ran my hand down my face. The things he was saying were ridiculous. Me, so it's my fault they got comfortable living off me. Austin, obviously, how do you think they're supposed to adjust when you've taken care of everything for years? Me, then I guess they'll have to figure it out fast, Austin. There was a long pause, then he dropped the guilt card. Austin, if Dad ends up in the hospital from the pressure you're putting on him, it's going to be on you. That's when I laughed because it was clear they had run out of tricks and were now just playing the final move. Shame, me. If Dad winds up in a hospital bed, Austin, it'll be because he never learned how to take control of his own life, and I hung up. I already knew this wasn't finished. They wouldn't quit. They had moved from emotional games to guilt tactics, and now there was only one move left: smear me publicly. Exactly 1 week after Austin's last call, it happened. I was sitting inside Bruin Ledger Cafe with my co-workers when suddenly my phone buzzed nonstop with alerts. Text from a friend. Dude, what's happening with your family? Text from someone I knew in college. Mark, is it true you really turned your back on your parents? Text from a business contact. I saw something about you on Facebook. Call me. I narrowed my eyes and opened the app, and there it was, a public post written by my mom. It's painful when your child forgets you exist. We gave him everything we had, and now he leaves us suffering. We don't even know how to pay our rent, and the bank already warned us about the house. We never thought our own son would treat us this way. We're just asking for kindness. If anyone knows of jobs for 2 seniors who've worked their whole lives, please help. May God bless you. And the worst part? The comments, more than 100. So disgusting. How could someone be this cruel to their own family? He claims to be successful. He should be ashamed. Tell me who this guy is. I'll make sure I never buy from him. He'll get what's coming to him. That's for sure. She didn't write my name, but everyone reading it knew exactly who she meant. I let out a slow breath and laughed to myself. Did they really think this plan was going to work? Coworker, is everything all right? Me, yeah, just my parents putting on their usual performance online. I quietly drank the last sip of my coffee and returned to my place. I already knew that Austin would reach out within a few hours. And as expected, my phone lit up. Austin, what is your problem? You made Mom go online and ask complete strangers for money. Me, I had no involvement in that. They were the ones who made their issues public on the internet. Austin, would it have really been so hard for you to keep supporting them? Just look at their situation. Doesn't that embarrass you? Me, what would embarrass me is being a grown-up who's never earned a paycheck and is now begging online for help. Austin. I honestly didn't think you'd go this far. Me. And I didn't think you'd turn into a sponge who lives off others, but at least I've cut the problem at the root now. Austin. Dad says if you don't make this right, he's going to take legal action against you. That made me laugh hard. Me. Sue me. For what? Not covering their expenses. I'd love to watch him try. Austin didn't respond again. I knew he realized deep down that I was telling the truth, but then my phone rang again. This time, it was my mom. I let out a sigh and answered. Mark, her voice was cracked and weak, like she'd been crying. Me, what is it? Mom, you don't need to do this anymore. We just want everything to go back to how it used to be. I gave a sad grin. Me, no, Mom. You want me to return to paying for everything while you keep treating me like a failure? Mom, that's not true. Me, it is true. If I had gone into medicine, law, or engineering, you'd brag about me. But since I sell toilet paper, I'm just a punchline to you. She stayed silent. I knew I was right. Me, wanna hear what's really funny? Mom, what? Me, that you never respected my business, but had no issue spending the cash it brought in all these years. She cried again. Mom, please, son, me. No. I'm done. I ended the call. I knew that meant the fight was almost finished, but I also knew there was still one last blow to come. After that final conversation with my mother, I figured there would be more pressure. I expected them to keep pushing, hoping I'd give in, but instead, nothing. No calls, no texts, no vague Facebook posts trying to make me feel guilty. At first, I thought maybe they had finally gotten the message, that they had finally realized they weren't my responsibility anymore. But I was mistaken because what they were really doing was setting up their final plan. 2 months later, a letter from the bank arrived. At first glance, I assumed it was sent by mistake. I had no loans, and everything in my financial records looked perfect. But when I opened the envelope, I froze. It was an official document. My parents had tried to take out a new mortgage using my identity. Not only that, but they had forged my signature on the paperwork. I grabbed my phone and immediately called my mother. She picked up, her voice shaky. Mom, Mark, I knew you'd call. Me, so you really believed you could commit fraud against me and not face consequences? Mom, it wasn't fraud. It was just a mistake. We were going to pay it all back. Me, with what money, Mom? You don't work. Dad can barely pay his own bills. Or were you planning to make me pay for this too? Mom, we didn't have any other way out. Me, yes, you did. You could have gotten jobs. You could have sold the house and moved somewhere cheaper. But instead, you chose to trick me. She started crying again. Mom, your father didn't want to do it. It was my decision. Me, I don't care who thought of it. Both of you are to blame. Mom, if you report us, we'll be ruined. There it was. The final guilt tactic. Threats. If I filed charges, they could face legal consequence. The house would likely be lost. Their image in the community would be destroyed, but that wasn't my burden to carry. Me, you're not my responsibility anymore. Mom, Mark, please. We're still your family. I took a deep breath. Me, no. You're just two people who tried to use me, and I ended the call. The next morning, I went to the bank. I explained the situation and provided proof that I had no part in the refinancing attempt. My parents were officially served with legal notice. Several weeks later, their property was listed for forced sale. They attempted to prevent it, but there was no way to reverse it. Eventually, they had no choice but to relocate into a cramped rental. No extras, no ease. And, of course, Austin didn't take long before hunting me down. One morning, I bumped into Austin outside my workplace. He looked worse than I had ever seen. Heavy shadows under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, and a face full of panic. Austin, we need to speak. Me, there's no discussion to have. Austin, come on, Mark. Dad isn't well. Mom is crushed. They can't continue living like this. Me, that's what regular life looks like, Austin. It's not my job. They never learned how to earn money, Austin, but you've got cash. Helping wouldn't even affect you. Me. Exactly. It wouldn't harm me. That's why I refused to do it. Austin glared at me like I had personally betrayed him. Austin, you only ever think about yourself, me, and you've depended on me for too long. At least I know how to live on my own. I turned away and walked back into the building. I was sure that was the last moment I'd ever face him. Half a year went by. During that time, my company kept expanding. I went on trips, enjoyed my freedom, and concentrated on what actually mattered. Then one afternoon, while going through emails, I found a message from an unfamiliar sender. It simply read, "Hope everything's okay, Mom." I looked at it. I thought about all that had happened, then I hit delete without replying. Because for the first time ever, I felt completely unchained, but the story still wasn't finished. For weeks later, during a business meeting, one of my associates gave me a strange look. Partner. Hey, Mark. What's going on with your folks? I raised my drink and responded. Me. Why do you ask? He turned his phone toward me, showing a social post on the screen. Once again, my parents were asking the internet for help. This time, they left my name out. Now it was about an unnamed wealthy son who had abandoned them and left them suffering. It was absurd. They were grown adults, fully able to support themselves, but instead, they chose to play the part of the helpless victim. I let out a long breath and grinned. Me, it's not important. They're just figuring out how to live without me in their own way. I didn't open that post again. I didn't care anymore because now I was truly free. After going through everything, I decided to post my experience on Reddit, not because I needed approval, but because I needed to get it off my chest. Writing it down helped me understand the full picture. But what I didn't expect was the huge response. Thousands of replies poured in. Opinions were split. Some people stood by me. Others criticized me. Some called me strong. Others said I was cold-hearted. Although I no longer felt bad, the comments still made me pause and think. The line I saw the most was, "How could you do that to your own parent?" At first, I laughed. The irony hit me hard. The real question was, how could they treat me that way? How could they laugh at me for years while happily taking my cash? How could they try to forge my name just to shove me into more debt? How could they use guilt, lies, and public shame just to keep draining me? But, of course, to outsiders, a son must always take care of his family no matter how cruel they are. Another person wrote, "You could have sent a little help and avoided all of this." Oh, sure. Because giving in one time means they'll stop forever. That's exactly what I did over and over. I gave constantly, always hoping that one day, they'd finally see me as more than their personal bank. But that moment never came because once someone learns they can take from you without consequences, they'll never stop themselves. Others commented, "They're old. They can't just get work. You left them with nowhere to go." Wrong. My parents weren't disabled. They weren't terminally ill. They just never bothered trying. They didn't have to because I was always there solving every problem. And once I stopped doing that, they still figured out how to survive because they always could. They just never wanted to. But the comment that stayed with me the longest was short and simple. "Do you regret it?" I didn't answer right away. I sat there staring at the screen. Then I typed out the truth with full certainty. No. The only thing I regret is not walking away sooner because now, finally, I was free.